Fly guy, huh? I don't know, he looks pretty whack to me. My dude, your fit is mid. Which half of the Dragon Quest experience do you enjoy more? Is it the endgame where you've amassed an arsenal of powerful equipment and spells, turning your party into an unstoppable force of nature? Or is it the early game with frequent trips back to the inn, and where buying a chain sickle or bronze armor can make a huge difference in your battle effectiveness? If you prefer the latter, then DQ4 just might be for you. The DS version ain't called Chapters of the Chosen for nothing. There's now a much stronger emphasis on characterizing the, characters. And it accomplishes this by having you play through separate chapters that focus on each character and their companions, after which you take up the sword of the hero and seek out your party. Ragnar McRyan and his mighty sword arm must track down some missing kids, and I'd really like to know what smelting method in this world results in pink armor. The speedy and strong Princess Elena, along with her friends and mentors, Kirill and Borya, set out to prove her strength. And I love Elena. Sisters Maya and Mina are on a quest for vengeance against their father's murderer, Balzac. Yeah, they really went with Balzac. How you gonna remove the Puff Puff scene in the American DS version but leave in Balzac? Ridiculous. And of course, there's everybody's favorite merchant and bread connoisseur, Torneko Taloon, who quits his job at the weapons shop and sets out to become the world's greatest merchant. I love how you actually have to decide when you've had enough of standing at the shop counter and when to go off and start making your own fortune. Yeah, there's a reason these are called fantasy games, folks. People were so fond of Torneko that he was given his own spin-off series, Torneko's Mystery Dungeon. I made a video on the only American release, Torneko The Last Hope, on PS1, if you're curious. You certainly surprised me. Maybe you humans don't suck after all. These are some of my favorite characters in this series so far, even with their limited dialogue. I like Torneko even more than Yangus.
Cool, blimey!
Kirill has the dubious honor of being a meme. I've heard you could only control the hero in the original release, with AI controlling the rest of the group. Apparently Kirill would constantly cast the insta-kill spells Whack and Thwack, but they would almost never work. This became such a well-known quirk that Dragon Quest Warriors memed on it with his coup de grace.
Thwack! 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 Thwack!
It breaks my heart that there was a party chat feature that added a ton of extra dialogue, but it was left out of the American DS version because it would have cost too much to translate. This feature was brought back in the Android and iOS release, but I find the prospect of phone gaming just utterly distasteful. Emulating the DS version worked out really well though, and there's a fan patch that adds the party chat back in if you want to figure out how to get that working. Changing the screens around made playing on my widescreen TV a lot easier on the eyes, and being able to look to the left for the world map was a godsend. And of course, the fully animated monster sprites are fantastic. Most of the sprite and texture work was carried over from the Japan-only PS1 remake, but monsters only move during their attacks in that version, so Art Piazza painstakingly animated every monster for this release, and I love them for doing that. It adds a lot of energy to the battles. And there are some strange monsters in here, man. This was the first DQ to start getting crazy with some of their designs and names, a tradition that would endure to this day. Were-Tiger? I don't get it, it's just a guy in a suit. Oh, Were-Tiger. That's clever. Scorpion's got an insane upgrade from the first game. Just look at that thing. Stump Chump, Dirty Dogu, Platypunk, Powie Yowie. Flamethrower, huh? Yeah, I wonder why he's called that. Yeah, that's what I thought.
What are you doing in my swamp?
Oh no. It's Mr. Popo all over again. Whoa! Yeah, I wonder what would happen if a bunch of skeletons merged together. Is there really any point in talking about the story? Some edgelord named Pissarro wants to use the power of evolution to destroy the human race, and the chosen heroes have to stop him. Though instead of collecting arbitrary MacGuffins like orbs or crests, instead you gotta track down all 4 pieces of the legendary Zenithian armor set to gain access to, well yeah, Zenithia. It's a nice change of pace since they're actual strong pieces of gear that can be equipped by the hero. By the way, check out this Dragon Quest Fantasia Laserdisc video on YouTube sometime. It has some real nightmare fuel. We're back to having set jobs for our party instead of the full customization system from 3. This still leaves you with interesting decisions to make concerning who to bring with you. Every DQ fan knows the importance of sap. The defense lowering power of this spell makes boss fights much quicker affairs, but if you don't bring Maya or Borya, kiss that power goodbye. I eventually settled on a pretty boring group designed to beat the enemy down with physical attacks, and keep myself protected and healed with Kirill's Kabuff and multi-heal spells. I went with this because I was getting sick of wasting NP on attack spells that would just refuse to work on certain enemies. DQ3 had the same problem, and it happens all the time. So I figured, why take the time to learn what works on certain enemies when I can just beat them down? You can switch out party members during battle without sacrificing a turn, but that's only when you have the caravan with you. Some dungeons force you to stick with the 4 members that you enter with. It seems the general opinion of DQ4 is that it took away a lot of the freedom to explore from the previous games and opted for a more linear style. I could see why people would take issue with that, but personally I found the linearity refreshing. Most of the game was fairly straightforward, only forcing me to check a walkthrough a few times when I was nearing the end. And if you really think about it, did 1 through 3 have that much freedom? Sure, you could go wherever you wanted once you got the ship, but if your levels and gear weren't on point, then it'd be like walking through a dark alleyway in Detroit. You'd just be asking for trouble. Frankly, I'm happy to trade off the freedom to explore for DQ4's more directed experience and personality. Yeah man, personality and charm. It is everywhere in this game. I used to not like video game dialogue being given an accent, but now that I've gotten used to it, it adds a ton of character. I'd even catch myself reading some lines out loud. But this is my castle now, the castle of Balzac. I am thinking it is terrible that 2 people in the love must to separate. And of course, the most endearing insult of all time. You're a big lump of bother, so you're Torneko Taloon. And there's a lot of personality in the gameplay too. Mina can equip a deck of tarot cards as her weapon, and when used as an item, can trigger a lot of useful effects for free. I used it a lot, until I found out this could happen. Oh, real nice! Couldn't have done that when I was fighting slimes or something? Once you finish Ragnar's chapter, the king gives him a massive experience boost. What, did the king unlock his hidden potential or something? I need an adult. I am an adult! And then there's Torneko's suspicious appraisals of female gear. That's one of the few benefits of having him around. He can appraise almost every item in the game, and each one has unique dialogue. Let's just say some of them are very unique indeed. Take this appraisal of the dancer's costume. Janie Mac, what would me ma'am say? I never saw anything so titillating. Course it'd be no good for a big fella like me. I couldn't wear it, but I might get myself one if they were selling at the right price like. I mean for herself at home, of course. Not for me, no, I'm no cross-dresser. Not at all. There's a lot more where that came from, so be sure to examine every womanly piece of gear that you get. Of course, mini medals are still around, with the DS version upping the amount from 20 to 60, though they aren't exactly hidden anymore and they just sit around in jars, drawers, and chests. Even the few on the ground are marked plain as day, so you're sure to find most of them without even trying. It takes away the fun of checking every nook, cranny, and conspicuous spot for medals from DQ3. Putting them in a drawer isn't hiding them, since the first thing anybody does when walking into someone's home is raid it for items. Man, it is nuts the kind of stuff heroes can get away with in these games. There's no board game this time, but there is a casino where you can play slots, poker, and bet on monster battles for tokens. You can trade them in for some really good items, like the twice-hitting Falcon Blade. And if you're not interested in throwing away hours of your life saving up for said blade, then I recommend you condense the nonsense and just use save states on the double or nothing option. Not counting the early levels with each new character, I only had to grind a few times. Once was because Marquis de Leon stomped me so hard on my first try that I thought I was supposed to lose. Turns out you just have to get lucky and hope he doesn't use his ice breath 2 turns in a row. It still took me about 5 tries before I finally got really lucky and didn't have to deal with the ice breath at all. This fight is definitely a low point. Speaking of leveling, be prepared to hear the level up jingle a bunch after bosses or metal slimes, since party members in the caravan gain experience also. Thank God for fast forwarding. The soundtracks have been good up until now, but DQ4 introduces some truly endearing and enduring themes that have been used in spin-offs many times. Torneco's world map theme? Delightful. Ragnar's world map theme? Delightful. Maya and Mina's battle theme? Delightfully ethnic. And I'm especially fond of the hero's theme after the game shifts focus back to him. After growing up in a remote village and seeing it and his family destroyed, he's forced to step out into an unknown world. The theme captures that sense of mystery and uncertainty that the hero would be feeling at the time. And later on, when he's gathered his party members and grown in strength, the theme changes to be more heroic and assured. If you're not a fan of it, you can change the leader of the group to switch to their theme. You don't even need to keep the hero in your group if you don't want. Anybody else think the battle theme sounds like falling down stairs? If you've sat through the video up to this point, then I've saved something very special for the end. I've deliberately avoided showing the final boss fights in the previous vids because those are supposed to be rewards for finishing the game. I didn't want to spoil them, but there's no way I cannot show it this time. Remember how I said the fully animated monster sprites were fantastic? Well, they really pulled out all the stops for the multi-phase fight against Pissarro. Has it ever been more clear that Akira Toriyama designed the characters and enemies for these games? This dude literally goes through all of his transformations before your eyes, getting more and more deadly with each form. This was one of the coolest, most rewarding final bosses I have ever faced. According to several popularity polls, DQ4 is never near the top, but it's far from the bottom. As far as I'm concerned, this DS remake is a must-own for fans of the genre. Great characters, great music, and a much friendlier experience for newcomers, who may get turned off by the more open-world nature of the older games. There's even a hefty amount of post-game content that gets, pretty weird. Did I just stumble into a Yakuza side quest? Dragon Quest III may be the better video game, but Dragon Quest IV is the better experience. I'll never forget the time I spent with these characters, and it's my hope that after watching this video, you too will be saying the same someday in the future. Thanks very much for watching. While working on this video, I had a hankering for some hacking, slashing, smashing, and casting. So next time we're gonna take a look at Dragon Quest Heroes 2. Please consider becoming a spooky scary subscriber, and I'll see you then. This is A Skeleton signing out.